Well, tonight, parents, you need to listen up. Seriously, we are talking about one of the most dangerous, harmful, and sometimes even deadly things your children encounter every day. They're at risk at home, at school, and with their friends. And it's not what you might think. I'm not talking about drugs. I'm not talking about guns or gangs. I'm not talking about bullies or even child predators. It's something that you are handing over to them every single day. I'm talking about what we call food. It is a uniquely American problem that's become a joke to the rest of the world. Look at this. Even the Statue of Liberty is obese. Sadly, this is no joke. It's a crisis that is causing a chronic illness epidemic among children, driven by the regular consumption of ultra-processed foods. 1/3 of young adults in the United States have prediabetes. 10% of teens have fatty liver disease. And 50% of young adults are overweight or obese. And if a war breaks out, 77% of young people don't qualify for military service. 77%. Children today are on a track to be the first generation in our country's history to die before their parents' age. Now, let that sink in. No wonder 40% of our teens are struggling with depression and anxiety. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is spearheading a bold new initiative that's aiming to change all of that. It's a plan to overhaul the food system in this country, among other things, and give Americans cleaner, healthier options, new regulations, and a real commitment to giving our children the future they deserve. What does it mean to make America healthy again, and what does this encompass? What has to happen?
When I was a kid, we were the healthiest country in the world. We had the most revered healthcare system. We had the greatest scientific agencies. NIH was the gold standard research agency in the world. So everybody was looking to the United States for gold standard scientific research. You've seen these pictures of the Presidential Council on Physical Fitness, which my uncle started, where these kids in high school, you know, they all look healthy, they all look like athletes, the athletes of today. But these were just average high school students. We had the longest lifespan of any country in the world, and we had the greatest healthcare system. Today, we have the worst healthcare, we have the most expensive, we pay 2 to 3 times what people pay in European countries. We've had an increase in chronic disease. And what do I mean by chronic disease? I mean basically 3 categories. One is neurological diseases like ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, autism. These are words that I didn't know as a kid. The other category is autoimmune diseases, which is rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, diabetes. When I was a kid, the average pediatrician saw 1 case of diabetes over a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 children who walk through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. That's not normal. Other nations don't have anything like that.
If it continues on this trajectory, where are we going to be in 1 or 2 more generations?
We are sitting on the verge of a societally destabilizing health collapse in this country. When we have 30% of young adults having prediabetes, when 50% of young adults are overweight or obese, and it's 3% in Japan, we have something morally wrong happening. The math is clear. The largest industry in the United States is not AI, it's not tech. It's healthcare, and it's also the fastest growing, producing sicker, more depressed, more infertile Americans for every extra dollar we spend. There's something happening, not with the people in this room. I know everyone in this room wants to be healthy. Everyone in the room wants their kids to be healthy. But you're being told by a corrupt medical system that you want to be sick. That's a lie. The reason this is happening is because the pharmaceutical and healthcare industry, just as a statement of economic fact, is the largest funder of politicians in America. They're the largest funder of media in America. They're the largest funder of academic research in America. They are the largest funder of medical organizations, which set the standards of care. They are the largest funder of every single institution of trust that impacts our health.
I am joined by Callie Means, who you just saw there. He is a former food and pharmaceutical consultant, New York Times best-selling author and co-founder of TrueMed. He's been working on this initiative. He is determined to building a healthier America for generations to come. Callie, welcome. Thank you for being here. You and I have been together before. We've talked about this before. They just showed us together up in Pennsylvania. We've been together in Florida. We've talked about this a number of times. And this is a serious crisis we're talking about for Americans in general and young people in particular. They're being poisoned. Is that an overstatement?
It's not an overstatement. I think we're all waking up to it. You know, the experts are saying that Bobby Kennedy is going to be dangerous for the healthcare system. The experts are overseeing the sickest country in modern history. As you said, it's pronounced how much it's happening in the United States. The childhood obesity rate in Japan is 3%. And here, as you said, 50% of teens are overweight or obese. Our kids, our bodies, our cells are crying out for help, and it's a big, big deal. As Robert Kennedy said, if another country did what's happening to our kids, if they performed that, it would be an act of war.
Absolutely it would, but you just said something. If we look at other countries like Japan, for example, where you see chronic disease in general or other specific diseases are in single digits. And here we're talking about certainly double digits in chronic diseases for children, and some are in the 40 and 50% range. How has this happened? And we've just sat around and nobody's done anything about it. This hasn't hit my radar until the last couple of years. And it really took a hockey stick effect where it just went up dramatically when we started adding things to foods that other countries have not added. Is that a fair correlation?
Absolutely. You just have to look at incentives. And I think the comparisons to other countries are so important. We live 6 years less than the Italians. And I don't think Americans are lazier than Italians, right?
Well,
There's
no.
something systemic happening here. And a stat that I think really sheds light on this is that we're 4% of the population in the world, in the United States. We produce 70% of worldwide pharmaceutical profits, and we're 60th of any country in life expectancy. So what's happened, Dr. Phil, is unfortunately these industries that just as a statement of economic fact profit from when we're sick, when American children are sick particularly, they've taken over our institutions of trust. That's what Bobby Kennedy has called out, and I think that's what's resonating with the American people.
Okay, when we're talking about these numbers, just for those of you here in the studio, is this surprising to you? It's not surprising to you. But we still buy this stuff, eat it and give it to our children, right? And the thing is, when you buy a cereal here, a sugary cereal or a sugary drink here, some of these breakfast cereals, you go to another country, they don't have all the things in them that they do here. They look the same, but they don't have the same things in them.
We're being poisoned. I know everyone here is trying to be healthy and trying to put their kids on a health trajectory. I believe the American people want to do that. We fundamentally have 10,000 chemicals in our food that aren't legal in any other country. We fundamentally, in the United States, our Nutrition Guidelines Committee is able to accept money from the food and pharma industry. 19 out of the 20 advisors who make the nutrition guidelines for our children have been paid by food or pharma companies. And today, sitting here today, the USDA says that added sugar is a healthy part of a 2-year-old's diet. When we have a metabolic health and obesity crisis, we are getting the wrong advice and we're getting the wrong incentives. SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Program for lower-income Americans, the 4th largest entitlement program in the country, 18% of that is going to soda and sugary drinks right now, and 70% is going to the ultra-processed food. We are funding and writing the check for poisonous, addictive food to our society, and it's criminal. A child today, 70% of their diet's coming from a box where these chemicals are added together to make the food addictive, and that's happened by design.
They're negotiating contracts for food at your kids' schools, for SNAP, for the food in your hospitals. They engineer that environment so you can't even escape their food, and then they manipulate consumer behavior. This system is rigged on every level against them in the ways that we're telling you right now.
Life gets hectic, so we forget to stop and connect. Cozy Earth creates a space that elevates love's little moments. Cozy Earth's bamboo sheets, soft, smooth, breathable, every night's a Cloud9 getaway. Shopping for her? Cozy Earth's bamboo pajama set is the ultimate gift. Silky, breathable, perfect for lazy mornings or unwinding after a long day. Robin will love this. Plus, Cozy Earth's men's collection has everything he'll love. Pajamas, joggers, and more. Comfortable, versatile, and built to last. The perfect gift for your guy. Now this Valentine's Day, show your love with Cozy Earth. With a 100-night sleep trial, a 10-year warranty, this is a gift that speaks to comfort and connection. Get up to 40% off at CozyEarth.com with my code PHIL. That's CozyEarth.com, code PHIL. And don't forget, if asked in the post-purchase survey, let them know you heard about Cozy Earth from the Dr. Phil podcast. They deserve this. Elevate your love with Cozy Earth. Now, that didn't sound real bad when you say it real fast, but let's just slow that sentence down a whole lot. You just said there are 10,000 chemicals going into America's food supply that are not approved in other countries.
This is deliberate. In 1990, 40% of the US food supply was produced by literal cigarette companies. Cigarette companies bought ultra-processed food companies in the 1980s when cigarette smoking was going down, and they worked to both rig the USDA and Institutes of Trust to approve these chemicals, and then have their tobacco scientists mix these chemicals together to create ultra-palatable food. As the regulations changed and as food became more addictive with these science experiments in ultra-processed food, our consumption of that is now 70% of our diet. A child today, 70% of their diet's coming from a box where these chemicals are added together to make the food addictive. And that's happened by design.
Okay, and what we're talking about here is there are pleasure centers in the brain. The nucleus accumbens in the brain, there are pleasure centers there that light up when you get certain sensations. And when these tobacco companies purchased these food companies, they started mixing these chemicals together until they lit up the pathways that light up when they were selling tobacco, that light up when you take heroin, that light up when you get certain drugs that give you a high. And these chemicals that are mixed into foods give you a certain sensation that you go, oh, wow, I need more of that. I want more of that. And those are these ultra-processed foods that have these chemicals in them, make these things very palatable that people want more of and more of and more of, and keep going back to them. And the problem is that what makes them taste so good, so palatable to eat, are also the things that make them so unhealthy.
That's right. The purpose is to make food cheap and addictive, which is what food companies did. But these chemicals also are having unknown consequences on our microbiome and our cells. This is barely hyperbolic. I actually mean this. We could fire every single nutrition advisor in the government, replace every single almost health and nutrition study with one simple guideline. We need to avoid ultra-processed food. You can't overeat broccoli or steak. Our body is built with these innate satiety signals. You don't see obese giraffes or lions in the wild. Every animal except humans actually knows how to regulate what they eat. You don't see chronic rates of diabetes in the wild. It's only humans. It's this ultra-processed food that has hijacked our cells. But importantly, Dr. Phil, it's a free country. The problem is this food's being recommended and subsidized by our government. That's the big problem. And that's what Bobby Kennedy and I think bipartisan leaders can change very quickly.
Yeah, listen, this has nothing to do with politics.
No.
It has nothing to do with politics. Every child has the right to a healthy future. Every child has a right to not have a chronic disease and not be programmed for a chronic disease. Now, coming up, Callie says there's nothing more profitable than a sick kid. Now, think about that. He says there's nothing more profitable than a sick kid. We're going to talk about how we need to fight against that, why it's true, why we need to fight against that as a country. Forget about politics. Forget about what you think you know about who's pushing what. Follow the money. We're going to do that. And later, you know her as one of America's toughest health coaches. Jillian Michaels is going to join us. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back. Why would people that we have put in jobs to protect, to regulate, to do the things that would make Americans healthy, have longer lives, et cetera, what's the incentive? $36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today.
95% of the folks that make our nutrition guidelines are directly paid for by food companies. That means the USDA recommends added sugar for 2-year-olds. They say up to 10% of a 2-year-old's diet should be added sugar.
You're talking about sugar, obviously. That's the white devil, right? All right, what else are you talking about?
I call it the unholy trinity of ingredients in ultra-processed food. You've got added sugar, you've got seed oils, you've got highly processed grains. All 3 ingredients are essentially invented just 100 years ago and were not evolutionarily made to handle.
Well, I'm here with my friend Callie Means, a former big food and pharma consultant. Means he's been on the inside of the tent. He knows what they do. He knows how they do it. And Callie, some experts have compared sugar to being more addictive than cocaine. And we are pumping our children full of it. So what are the incentives? Why would people that we have put in jobs to protect, to regulate, to do the things that would make Americans healthy, have longer lives, et cetera, what's the incentive?
The simple, sad fact is that the healthcare industry is the largest and fastest growing industry in the United States. It's not AI, it's not tech. Healthcare is the bedrock of the American economy. And the unfortunate reality, just not conspiratorial, just looking at the basic incentives, is that every single lever that touches our health, they profit and make more money when an American is sicker for a longer period of time. Chronic disease, which is now 95% of medical costs, is the greatest profit-maximizing invention in human history because you suffer, but you don't get cured. You just suffer, but you don't die, right? So think about a child right now. 40% of them of teens are on at least one chronic disease medication. Statin rates, SSRIs, antidepressants, metformin for prediabetes, they've doubled in just the past 5 to 7 years, each of those among teens. You're a lifetime customer once you can get a kid on one of those medications and keep racking up the comorbidities. That's the reality.
Well, we're talking about cancer, diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, kidney disease, upper respiratory illness, autism, ADHD, depression. These are at an all-time high for American children this year.
I'm gonna repeat that, and let's all let that sink in one more time. Every single disease he just mentioned is at an all-time high this year, particularly among kids. Every single one. It's all going up all at once. Every single condition you just mentioned, my sister, my co-author, my collaborator at the Stanford Medical School, they're all separate categories. They're all separate doctors. There's 42 medical specialties, as you know, 82 subspecialties. And each one you mentioned is treated with a different doctor, a different treatment plan that don't speak to each other. The reality, what Robert Kennedy, what we're talking about in a bipartisan way, is we can reform the standard of care of medicine because all those conditions are tied together by metabolic factors, particularly food.
Right.